call the meeting to order for December 13th, and of course the reason that's called that day is because today is the 13th of December. And we have some announcements to make and an introduction of our newest police officer.
Good evening to everyone. It is my pleasure this evening to introduce to the Board of Supervisors and to our community our newest police officer. His name is Michael Ottolini. Michael was born and raised in Jefferson City, Missouri. Upon graduating high school, Michael joined the United States Marine Corps. Sorry, Pam.
That's all right.
All right.
Army
all right. But while in the Marine Corps, though, Michael spent a lot of time at Camp David, protecting a variety of different dignitaries, and he was honorably discharged earlier this year from the Marine Corps in 2013. And what was it, February? February,
Yes,
yeah. But Michael, it seems like all along, has known he's wanted to pursue a career in law enforcement, and he's actually following in the footsteps of his father, who is a sergeant at the Jefferson City Police Department. Michael put himself into the academy, and his classmates voted him to be the president of their class. And then also while he was in the academy, he earned the physical fitness and also the academic awards. He was hired by the Patton Township Police Department on September 18th while he was in the academy, and then he graduated the academy on November 17th. So for a short time now, he's been out on the street in our field training officer program. So again, my pleasure to introduce Michael Ottolini to the Board of Supervisors.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Yep, absolutely.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you.
Thanks, Michael.
You just got them all, so yeah, please.
All right.
Okay, and now the next one is some recognition.
That's Pam.
And
I thought we had something written up, but I guess not.
No, I apologize.
No problem. All I can say is it's been an honor to work with Dan Trevino and the chair, Elliot Abrams. They both have made this board a better board and have always put our community first. It is my honor to start off with, we're going to miss Dan Trevino. Dan has been on the chair, he's been on the committee for the finance for COG, and without further ado, I know he's like, keep it short. We would like to, from the community and from this board, Dan, we would like to give you this plaque. And it reads, let me turn it around. 7 years of service presented to Dan Trevino in recognition of your dedicated service to Patton Township community. Thank you. And that one's to you.
Thank you.
And we always outdo ourselves. All right, Dan is also a drummer. He has a drumming.
Oh, is there drumming here? Oh.
And now it's a drumming, and you have a drumming mug. You got it? Okay. One.
Thank you very much.
And to keep you warm on those long nights that you miss us, we have, so we'll put it on here.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, everybody. Certainly has been my honor and pleasure to serve as supervisor for Patton Township for 7 years. And I've worked with wonderful people, and as Pam said, we're all here to serve the community, serve the public. I've been blessed that every elected official I've met through COG and otherwise, we all share the same goal. We want to make our communities strong and better and healthy and great places for people to live in work and play. I've not regretted one moment of being a supervisor, so it's a little bittersweet for me, but I'm glad that I've been able to serve the community in this capacity. I thank everybody for your support.
And would any of the other supervisors like to say a word to Dan? Betsy, you want to start?
Been a mentor to me in many ways. An honor to serve with you.
Did you want to say something, Miss?
She did.
I did. I said the mentor thing.
Well, you're a tremendously brilliant individual, and that's shown up in just about everything you've done, whether everyone else agreed with it or not. And you've had the courage of your convictions, and you've had many ideas that have been of benefit to the township, and you're going to be missed. And I'm just glad that Pam is going to be our chair next year, returning to that lofty honor. Or scourge. Okay, but congratulations.
Thank you.
And you'll be missed.
Thank you.
And Dan, yeah, I'll keep it short and sweet to echo what Elliot said. There's a degree of brilliance to you that I've admired greatly. There's sort of like steadfast commitment to like understanding issues and being able to like convey that in a humble sort of like manner. Again, it's just been I've been in awe, sort of like the way that you present yourself. And I've definitely taken some things from that, and hopefully I can, execute or, implement a lot of what I've learned from you. But I'm just so grateful for you, the type of person that you are, your character. I'm hopeful that you can enjoy this time away and do what you need to do. And I swear I will get back to drumming with y'all at some point.
Thank you.
Well, Dan, also, and since I'm stepping into the finance committee, I don't know how you've done it, how you continue to do it, but keep my number on speed dial.
Yeah, likewise, you keep my number on speed dial anytime. Be happy to be your behind-the-scenes consultant.
Well, I like that. Since you've helped us save our community and our taxpayers so many dollars, I can't even begin to thank you on that. But as we're moving on, next on our awards is our illustrious chair. What can we say about Elliot Abrams? 40 years is a long time. Ellie, you have been a mentor. You have been the rock in this community. You have been steadfast and a true leader for this board. And without your jokes to keep it moving, I don't think we would have that moment of laughter when we needed it and a break. You continue to be an icon in this community, and we are truly grateful as your colleagues to have you as chair and to continue on this board. But you have been a leader as our chair. So without further ado, you also have a plaque. And it reads, 40 years of service presented to Elliot Abrams in recognition of your many years of dedicated service to the Patton Township community. Thank you.
Thank you excessively, and I'm not done yet, but we'll be in a couple of years, depending, and only hope that we continue to be of service and help to the community. That's the whole idea, because at this level of government, this is where people bring their problems and issues to us, and we try to solve them, and it's not much more than that.
Elliot loves trains, so we made sure he had a train in his basket.
Train.
Well, and with the holiday season, of course, many of you have heard this, but there's the story of a brother and sister living in New Jersey and Pennsylvania. And their parents had moved to Ireland 3 years ago, and 5 days before Christmas, the son calls up his dad and says, "Dad, how are you doing?" And the dad says, "Your mother and I are getting a divorce." He said, "You can't do that. You've been together for 52 years. I'm going to get my sister, call my sister. We're going to come over there and talk you out of it." And the dad says, "Whatever," puts the phone down, turns to his wife and says, "They're coming for Christmas and they're paying their own way."
That's awesome.
Okay, any of the other supervisors would like to say anything to Elliot at this time?
Well, I certainly will start off talking about being a mentor. You've certainly been a mentor for me and I think for all of us because of your long years of service. And even before I even thought about running for supervisor, I certainly came to township meetings related to development issues around my neighborhood. So I was certainly impressed with the way you were able to manage meetings where there were certainly strong opinions voiced on both sides, neighbors versus the developers, and your creative solution to some of those, especially when you were suggesting that we create an advisory committee, a citizens advisory committee to help work with developers and see if we can come to some compromises. So that was certainly a strong incentive for me to look at issues like you look at them and seeing how we can best resolve contentious issues in a harmonious, peaceful way that everybody would feel like they got something out of the negotiations, even if they didn't get everything they wanted. So I thank you for that.
I can't take credit for that idea, though. Patricia Bess at the school board started that in the 1990s, and she was trying to diffuse an idea where a group of citizens had come in and saying that their taxpayers' dollars were being wasted, while other people thought that the school district was doing a good job, and after the people got together, everybody agreed that they could work together.
Betsy, you want to say something to Elliot?
Sure, everything Dan said,
Okay.
and then the institutional memory, which is, I think, quite literally second to none.
Mm.
Or maybe Betsy Dupuy might twinkle in someone's eye, I think, from the dad's search. But anyway, it's great to have
Well, Betsy's been a great
that.
attorney since before we were all born.
Feels that way, thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, Sutan, have something?
I mean, he's still gonna be here, right?
Yeah.
What am I giving you well wishes for?
Last day of chair.
Oh, well,
Thank you.
no, I'm just kidding. Partially. No, I want to sort of like emphasize again sort of what I said about Dan and that your intellect is something to be inspired about. And again, your ability to see issues from various points of view and to come up with creative solutions or suggestions, whether or not those are things that you yourself, engendered, to me is just shows a degree of compassion, humility, understanding, and a genuine want for just people to be well. And then just the way that you show up with all your jokes and you sort of like embody what it is to be unapologetically sort of like you in different spaces. And so for me, that's as I'm learning to show up in this government entity environment in a different ways. Again, I'm really drawing from how you show up and can see that you can be very effective and persuasive and stuff like that while just being you. And so I appreciate that about you.
I appreciate your, in your professional career, I know you work with a lot of people and helps them solve their problems, and that's what you're doing here. You know, it's a totally different type of setting, and we're just lucky you're here.
Thank you. Next.
Am I co-chair next year? Oh, I forgot.
He asked if he's co-chair next year.
Okay, we're now we want to have a resolution honoring a former supervisor, George Downsborough. We've talked about his great contributions in a couple of previous meetings, but want to formalize that. So we have a proposed resolution.
Mr. Chair, I move that we adopt Resolution 2023-029, honoring the legacy of former Patton Township Supervisor George Downsborough, Jr.
Second.
Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? None. Okay. And does anyone have, now we're going to do the pledge, if you're able, and pledge the flag. Pledge allegiance to the flag
of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Does anyone have any additions to the agenda to propose? Seeing none, we're up to public comments. Does anyone have any comments? Now, remember, the comments are about things that are not on the agenda. And, come on up. I can go.
You need to go to the microphone, please.
The reason for that is that way CNET, which is broadcasting this, can pick it up properly.
Not a problem. Hello, my name is Ted. I'm a resident of Park Forest Village, have been for 8 years. I just wanted to talk about the brightness of the street lamps. As we all know, we're being blinded by cars with white LEDs every single day at night. Luckily, Congress is doing something about it, you know. Well, not Congress, the Department of Transportation will eventually adopt adaptive lighting technologies, you know, so it doesn't blind the person you're driving directly behind. However, I can't say the same thing about street lamps. It seems that they're just too bright, you know. I read that a lot of engineers have been miscalculating the lumens value for the light lamps and not taking into account that the intensity of the blue light, the white light, that is a lot brighter in human perception than, you know, a yellow light with comparable luminance, you know. So I would like the Board of Supervisors to consider looking into this issue and finding a way if we can safely reduce the intensity of the street lamps. It would save tax money, it would increase property values, you know, it would burden residents and homeowners less, and it would just be overall better for the environment, you know. So I appreciate having this time, and again, please look into this. Thank you.
I'm glad you brought this up because as someone getting older and noticing it more, I noticed that too. And we should probably look into how we can make the lights do their job without being oppressive.
Yeah, we can talk to West Penn about that. They certainly are the ones that own and take care of the streetlights, but there are new technologies that they have out now, and with the LED lights that they've been replacing a lot of the streetlights with, they have different lumens that you can put in, and they can also do some shielding. So that's something we can definitely speak with them about. Thank thank you for bringing that to our attention.
Thank you.
I think it's, sorry, I'm not interrupting. I think it's been on a lot of people's minds.
Thank you for bringing it up. So we'll schedule this for another,
I'll reach out to West Penn. I'm not sure who the contact is anymore since Jolene retired, but I will find the right person and see what we can do and try to find what we have out in Park Forest and all of our other neighborhoods as well now.
is it okay if we should plan to talk about it maybe in late January? February?
Yeah, I'll see what kind of an update I can get and maybe give you an update at the January meeting.
Great. Any other comments? Anybody thinking of making a comment? Seeing none, we'll move along. And the next item is presentations, public hearings. And there's an ordinance about withdrawing from the local planning effort. And we're going to talk about that.
Yeah, so I will mention that you discussed this and tabled action on this item at your November meeting, and in that ensuing couple of weeks, I met with Mike Tilka, who's the new CRPA planning director, who's here this evening, and I will say it was a very encouraging meeting. Mr. Tilka has a lot of energy, which I appreciate, and he is actively trying to find us a planner in Patton Township. He also brings a lot of skill sets to the table, which I think are beneficial for Patton, in terms of he has done education for planning commission members out in Colorado, which is something I'd like to do with our planning commission. So I was very encouraged after that meeting, and I mentioned to Mike at the meeting, and I sent this in an email to Mr. Norenberg, if the COG, and this follows up on a comment that Sutan had made, and that I had brought up when I went to the executive committee for Elliott, if the COG were able to commit to coming up with language that could go into the articles of agreement that would say, you know, if the COG is unable to provide a program, there's an out clause, basically, so that we could get out without having to get out of a program if they can't provide it. I think you wouldn't need to pass this ordinance, right? You wouldn't need to give your notice of intent to withdraw, because if the COG would take care of this in '24, and I will say, after I met with Mr. Tilka, I really feel like things are going to turn around rapidly at that planning agency, and I ran into one of his staff members over the weekend at a Christmas event and spoke with this person, and I think they share my sentiment. So I think things are going to change, but I think having that out clause in the Articles of Agreement, my sole reason for wanting to do the intent to withdraw was financial, right? It's our fiduciary responsibility to make sure we're spending our money judiciously. So I think if you put that language in the Articles of Agreement that lays out a process of what happens, and not just local planning, any program. You know, say we decide to get out of refuse and recycling for some reason, there would be language in there that doesn't make us have to continue paying for a service that we're not able to get from the COG. So Mr. Norenberg was on vacation and just came back to work today, but to his credit, responded and said that he thinks that's something that they could look at. I know the Finance Committee tomorrow is going to talk about, this was sort of on the list of the budget debriefing, so this might be something. There was language that they want to send to the managers to look at adding to the Articles of Agreement for reducing services in a program. So I think this could be tacked into that. And I think Mr. Norenberg was on board with moving forward with trying to figure out a way, understanding it's a bit of an uphill battle because it has to go certainly through the Finance Committee, Executive Committee, and then also to the General Forum for approval. And there's a lot of different ways, as Eric pointed out in his email, to define how you can't, you know, no longer providing a service. What does that mean? What does that look like? But I think if the COG commits to getting that done in '24, my concerns are covered in terms of the financial concerns that I had.
Of course, we don't know that it's going to happen, but in my opinion, at this point, we should put a little trust in the ability of our people to get this worked on. Maybe we'll find in a year we made a mistake, but I think right now, to me, the atmosphere is not right for going ahead with the ordinance that we have, even though there is a danger that we wind up paying for something we weren't getting. But curious to hear what everyone else has to say about that.
Go ahead. Mr. Chair, since we have Mike here, why don't we have him come to the podium and introduce himself? And
that would be good planning, Pat.
Oh, thank you all again. I know I won't go much into a biography about myself, but I'm coming to you with over 10 years of experience in planning, the last 7.5 years in a very fast-growing municipality outside of Denver, over 50,000. My first experience was on a planning commission right outside of Pittsburgh, Green Tree Borough. So I'm back in Pennsylvania after 10 years and excited to be serving the residents of Patton in the center region. We do have the two planning positions open, a principal and senior, with one of them being dedicated to Patton Township, that we are actively looking to fill. We have gone through a few interviews, and the positions are still open and posted, and we are still seeking candidates. With that, I'm obviously here tonight to answer any other questions. I know former Director May and Executive Director Nornberg did answer a variety of questions over your last meeting on this topic. Is there anything else I could add to that?
No, I think the meeting with Amy and Ken Soder kind of sealed it for me as well in giving the opportunity. I'm going to vote to withdraw it. So,
Withdraw the motion or withdraw? Okay.
Or the ordinance.
Betsy?
Yeah, so first of all, I want to thank Amy and Larry for the thought that they put into this, and based on the finance of it. And I also want to thank Sutan for your suggestion about changing the wording. I certainly agree that the fiduciary responsibility that we have to citizens is number one. There are two ways of looking at the fiduciary. There's a short term and a slightly longer term. And I will call the longer term the 1 year term. So I know I may be in the minority here. I believe that we should not withdraw from the called planning agency, because even in the long term of a year, if there's no planning person hired, we would be paying for that, and then in year we have that money reimbursed to us. So
It's the
I
phone.
take some medication. I'm sorry, my life has been ruled by that. That's good. Which I actually don't have to take medication, just reminding. Sorry. So the long term is that our money is not being used for a year. We do get that reimbursed. I do believe that we're, as a region, we're much stronger if we have our planner connected with the Central Region Planning Agency, but I think everybody here agrees to that. And I could give a number of reasons, but I think the number one issue in my mind is affordable housing, which really needs to be done on a regional basis, and we've already addressed that several times in the past in this board and also at the COG. But I further believe that us withdrawing from or having a resolution saying that we're going to withdraw within a year if we do not find a planner, it is making a statement. And I think if we do not pass this resolution, it's also making a statement of belief that we will find a planner. I think everybody here believes that we will find a planner. I'm not, wanting to split straws here, but I will not be supporting this resolution for those reasons.
Anyone else? Dan?
Well, I may be the only vote in favor of the resolution. I've already expressed my reasoning in previous board meetings we've had. If the new planning director, Mike, is not able to fill the position, and certainly Jim May tried a long time to have a permanent position filled to provide the local planning for 3 municipalities. We'll be back in the same position we were this year when we lost the local planner we did have for a few months. I still think that fiduciarily it's our responsibility to make sure we're not spending money for services we're not receiving. And if we don't have a local planner through the COG local planning office in 2024, we have to hire our own. So we'll be paying COG for a planner and not get service. And then we'll also have to spend money to hire another planner to provide the service that we need. Yes, I understand that at the end of the year, we will get credit for the amount of funds we paid and not have the service that we were contracting for. But that's a year that the COG is holding our money, our taxpayers' money. And I don't think that's fiduciarily responsible. The resolution, as has been explained in the past, can be rescinded. We pass it tonight, it's just sort of our fallback position. It's our fallback position, that's all it is. The board can rescind the resolution when Mike is able to hire a local planner to provide the service for us. And assuming that planner stays on board through the majority of next year, the board can rescind the resolution. It's not an issue for me. So I'm encouraged from what I hear about the meeting that Amy had with the new director. Hopefully the best solution is if he's able to hire a planner that will provide the service for us and the other two municipalities. And then this whole resolution is moot. You know, rescind it, we're fine, everything's fine. But it gives us the fallback position, which I think is a responsible action.
So Dan, I will say that you're not in the minority. I think we're in the minority, you and I, right now. And for all the things that you just said, again, I am encouraged, Michael, and it's good to see you, and I'm wishing you well. And, you know, obviously we're here to support in whatever ways we can. And I do think it comes back to, and to, you know, Betsy's point, yeah, we need to think about the short term, but we also need to think about the long term. I don't think those things are mutually exclusive, and the idea of responsibility is, I mean, that's the word. Like, we need to be responsible. This resolution would not have come without precedent or history, and the history has showed that we need a safety net for the provision of these types of services. And I don't need to keep going on about that, but I think what you said it well. And I think the piece that you didn't talk about was, again, my stance was also fidelity to the Articles of Agreement. And so COG wanted this year notice to withdraw. And so we are providing this year's notice to withdraw because we didn't want to get to a point where our services weren't being rendered and we were just like, screw this, we're out, right? And leaving, you know, COG scrambling for things. So for me, it's responsibility to our citizens, our taxpayers, also fidelity to the COG Articles of Agreement that I think we need to, you know, move forward with passing this resolution. And again, there's a fallback in that we can rescind this at any time. Also, us passing this resolution does not mean that we are severing our disconnection with COG and planning. We have regional planning, among other things. And so I think the responsible thing would be to move forward with this resolution, understanding that we can rescind at any time. Again, we cannot predict the future, and I wish that we hire someone quickly to render these services, and who knows if something might happen at that point that they can only be in the job for a year, a month or two, right? And so we have all the confidence in you, but putting this faith that things are going to work out, I think this is the responsible thing to do.
Listening to all of you, I believe that all of you are correct. My biggest concern with this is that since there is a credit that would be applied if we don't get the service, we aren't losing everything.
I just want to make a point about the credit. The way the credits have been applied in the past is not that you get the money refunded. And Larry and Dan can probably both speak to this. In the past, what they've done is they've given you a credit toward the next year's service. So Patton Township would be out the $70,000, or I think it's roughly around $70,000 that we're paying the COG next year for planning services. If we're not able to they're not able to staff the planning. You wouldn't get that back. They would give you a credit towards regional planning in 2025. So, and I appreciate what both Sutan and Dan have said, because we don't right now have the fail-safe of language in the Articles of Agreement that would say, and frankly, what we had discussed back, Mr. May, Mr. Nornberg, and the managers, what we had discussed was give a 6 months, right? So if it's not staffed within 6 months, then let us out and surcharge us just the overhead, which is like 20%. And we pay the 20% for the rest of the year so that they're not left high and dry, and we can then move on and try to make our own decisions locally about what we need. That's the kind of language we need to be in the Articles of Agreement, but it's not there, and that's a bit of an uphill battle, although you have 2 other members who are also dealing with the same issues with local planning. Harris and Half Moon both rely on the COG for local planning. So I understand, and Larry has his hand up, so if we want to let Larry comment as well.
Larry.
Hi, I'm sorry I can't be there. I'm still feeling under the weather. But just to maybe correct something that Amy just said is I don't think necessarily the credit would go against regional planning because we would still be in local planning for another year. So I think what it does is it takes that $67,000 that we're paying for local planning in 2024, and it pushes it on to where they're not holding the money for 12 months, but they're holding the money for 24 months. Then we get out local planning in 2026, because at the end of 2024, we do the ordinance to remove, and then in 2026, we would have a credit against regional planning. So I think what it turns out to is that they end up holding that $67,000 for 24 months against local planning. Not if things remain status quo where we can't find somebody to be a local planner. Obviously, if they hire a local planner, then everything works out and this whole thing's moot, and we rescind the ordinance. So, thank you.
Thank you, Larry. One thing that I think that the argument to go ahead with the ordinance would have made perfect sense 20 or 30 years ago. But I think today, in the era of headlines, that's all people are listening to. And so if we still have the headline that we're planning to pull out if such and so, that's what people are going to hear. You watch the news at night, nobody's talking about why something's happening or doing the whole thing, or if they are, it's one side against the other, and they're all saying something different. And so I don't want that headline out there saying Patton's going to be pulling out, even though we know that that's not the specific thing that we're saying. And so, given the fact that the COG has hired an individual who has extensive experience in planning and intends to do this, I think we should pave the way for success. And I realize that it could be a costly thing, and it's my fault if that's what happens and I'm wrong. But I'd rather pave the way for the possibility of success rather than the looking at the doom of failure and saying, oh, we don't know. So,
Mr. Chair, I'd like to have you a little bit earlier. I'd like to just add a little addendum. So right now, the memorandum of agreement gives COG a safety net. You know, Sujan talked about us needing a safety net. So I think I'm erring on the side of, in not supporting this resolution, of giving COG the safety net. So I'm just, and I think in terms of the fiduciary responsibility, my judgment is that, I read the headline, and you know, I think that COG is a very important function in this region. It's perhaps somewhat of a fragile arrangement because it depends on 6 municipalities, all agreeing on basic things. So I see this as, yes, a safety net issue, but a safety net issue for COG. But I think being a safety net issue for COG is in fact being a safety net issue for everyone, because I see that I'm erring on the side of the bigger picture. Just that.
okay.
Sujan.
Suzanne?
Yeah, I think with all due respect, Chair, if there's buzz and headlines about us making this decision, I would welcome that. We have strong footing to stand on right now as to the rationale behind why we want to move forward with this. And so if that gets people engaged, great. Give us the headline. And maybe they have creative ideas and can advocate for us to rescind this or whatever that may be. And Supervisor Whitman, I get the big picture and the safe. If I heard you correctly, you're saying that you're in support of providing the safety net to COG by us not doing this resolution, correct?
Right now, I understand that there are additional fees that COG depends on.
But, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt.
Like secretarial support and software support.
But they're still going to get those, and I think that's the point we need to make. So all this does, right, is says that in 2025, if something doesn't change and we don't have a local planner, we're going to step out of local planning, which State College Borough did a long time ago, Ferguson Township did a long time ago, and College Township just recently did because they had an issue with their planner and COG could not staff their planner 100% anymore, and they were let out 6 months into the year when that happened. We were not given the same consideration. So all we're saying is we're still going to pay you for 2024. One of the issues, and one of the things that Dan will talk about at the Finance Committee meeting tomorrow, is the formula is so, local planning formula is so tied into all the other formulas within CRPA that yes, there is overhead. But one of the things that I think has been recognized is that formula probably has to be extracted a little bit. So not everything is paying for everything. But if we say, we're giving you our intent to withdraw in 2025. Everybody's still getting paid in 2024. So the COG would know well in advance of 2025 when they start the budget if we're still keeping with our ordinance. You can rescind this. If we get the best rock star planner that we've ever seen in this region, which I hope we do, then you can rescind this in March and say, we're good, we're happy, we've got this great planner. But if COG is not able to staff the planner, if COG decides, if there's a whole conversation like local planning just probably isn't going to work for us anymore, we need to focus on our strengths, sustainability, transportation, regional planning, and local planning goes away, we're left hanging, holding the bag. And so I understand and appreciate you want to protect COG, but also we have to think about, are we protecting the residents of Patton Township? There is no fail-safe right now in those articles of agreement. And I tried, as I could, to make the point to Mr. Norenberg that those articles of agreement need to change to contemplate, because there is precedent that was set, and it was not very long ago. I think it was maybe 4 years ago when College Township was allowed out after 6 months. And that was between Mr. Steff, who was the former executive director, Mr. May, and the College Township manager. They all talked and said, yep, we understand, you can go. We were not given the same consideration. Harris was not given the same consideration. Half Moon has not been given the same consideration. Half Moon arguably has been the one who hasn't had the planner the longest. They've been 18 months now. But I think that's something we need to think about, is that there is no fail-safe for Patton Township but to follow this process in the Articles of Agreement. And as for Elliot's concern about the headline isn't that we're pulling our support for local planning. The headline isn't that we're pulling out of CRPA because we're mad at CRPA, we don't want to plan anymore. We believe in all of those things. The headline is we're doing what's fiduciary responsible for the residents of Patton Township, and that's giving ourselves an option. If, the Articles of Agreement aren't changed and we don't end up with a planner, I don't know how you can go to someone who lives in Park Forest and say, oh, well, your taxes have to go up now because we have to pay another year of planning and we have to hire our own planner. And that's the reality of it. Because if local planning still exists in some way in 25, you don't pass this ordinance tonight, we don't have a planner, we still have to pay then in 25. So for 2 years, you're paying for a service that you wouldn't necessarily be getting through the COG, but you have to find a way to still get that service. Regulatory rules through the state of Pennsylvania dictate timelines when we have to act on plans. And we have developers that are going to be coming in with some really big plans this year that we have to make sure we're able to act on within that time frame. So it's not saying we're not committed to affordable housing. It's not saying, because we're having those conversations now regionally, it's not saying that we're not committed to the COG, because I think we've always been committed to the COG, right? It's just maintaining that flexibility so that if something doesn't change by the end of 24, we can move on in 25 and staff that position ourselves. That's all it's doing.
And if there was a clause in an article of agreement that was like, come November, December, if you haven't had any services, y'all can leave, I'd be like, I don't need to pass this resolution.
Right.
But, until that case, I think we need to think about doom and gloom instead of the optimism, because again, it has long-term impacts if we don't act now, so.
Mr. Chair. I've been sitting here and I've been observing and listening. And please forgive me, Betsy, but I'm going to put you on the spot.
You said
Dupree. Could you walk us through I know our comments before, I know you kind of guided us to the language of the Article of Agreement. If we put the clause in, how will that affect how soon we can come off or we can give notice?
Well, I think the issue is what you end up negotiating in the articles. And having been around here for a long time, I've been privy to a lot of conversations about amendments to the articles. And I go back to a very fateful night in 2005 or 6. Amy was there, I think.
Yes, I
in
was.
which there was a conversation about the growth boundary. And the client I represented at that time was Calvary Baptist Church. And one of our board members at the time, actually this board supported putting them inside the growth boundary at the time, even though they were not a Patton Township project and yada, yada. And from that came an amendment that still not, in my mind, solved the issue, because the issue at that point was you need unanimous consent. And once you require, if we required unanimous consent in pretty much all forms of government, nothing would happen anywhere. And we know it's struggling now, even though we don't require that. So the problem I think you all have and are struggling with is that you don't know what that language will look like and what those opportunities are. And you're trying to find services. I mean, your staff, I think, is looking at this from the day-to-day operation perspective. They don't have a planner. Ferguson is now going to be hiring a planner, and so they are competing now with Center Region COG for the same applicants. The county is still working on hiring folks. And so it's not an easy answer. Well, then you say, well, how could we do that? I don't know. What I do know is that every time Patton Township puts a position out here, and you just had an officer here, you get more applicants than any of your neighbors. There's something about this township that people want to work here. You don't have problems getting police officers to come here. That is not true with your neighbors necessarily. And I mean that in a gentle way, but I think one of the things that, you know, if I were king or queen,
Thank you.
I would really like you to look at whether or not having your own person gives you a lot more ability to do the programming you need to do. And I've only noticed this because I've worked with Ferguson for 2 years. And some people in this room know that I wasn't always a fan of some of their former planners. But I've worked with Jenna, and I've watched the things she can do from a staffing perspective, planning perspective, moving forward perspective. And you haven't had that service in Patton Township, no disrespect to Center Region COG, since Lee Slesser was here. You haven't had that service, because Lee was devoted to us, and he could give us the work, and he left and went on and did bigger and better things. But you don't get a planner that is able to come in and help you do the kind of planning that some of you really want to do, because they're too busy putting out the fires. They're too busy reviewing plans. Stop it, Tony. Submitting, that is. But, you know, I mean, the bottom line is that takes a lot of time and effort. And so I see this as a two-edged sword. I understand the concerns, but I also think that the articles don't give you the flexibility and the comfort to know that if you don't pass this ordinance tonight, that people don't look at you and say, well, you're stuck for another year. You're stuck for another 2 years. You can give us your notice next year, and we'll think about, and this isn't about the planning director, right? This isn't he's doing his job, he's gonna try to hire people. This is the overall COG thing. You gotta move a bunch of municipalities to make change happen. And it's not easy making that change happen. Just have years of experience with COG.
Thank you. I needed that.
So, Mr. Chair, you know, we've been having a discussion without a motion, so I would like to correct that.
All right.
And I move that we adopt ordinance 2023-632, an ordinance that declares that Patton Township will withdraw from the local planning program in COG in the year 2025.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. We're going to have further discussion. I wanted to ask one question. Let's say we pass this. What exactly are we going to be doing in January and February of the coming year for our own planning?
So what we're doing in January and February is working with Mr. Tilka because COG is providing the service to us. Ferguson Township's not able to do this anymore after the end of this month because of their planning director leaving. So we'll be working with Mr. Tilka to make sure that, and Toft Trees Resort, I'm looking at you, Tony. I know that's a coming attraction, so we're gonna make sure that Mr. Tilka gets up to speed if you don't have a planner yet, and we'll sit and get the plan reviews done. But Center Region will be providing this service to us in '24 per the agreement.
That's what I thought you were going to say. And so, like, if I'm one of these candidates that are looking at the job, and I say, oh, well, one of your most important municipalities is about to pull out, why should I come to work here? That would be the biggest concern to me, but maybe I'm wrong about that, but that's my worry at this point. Anyone else?
And again, it's my understanding from the last meeting we had in discussion about this is that whoever they hire, their work would not necessarily, it could be focused elsewhere on regional planning and other things. It's not just that they have a job only because they're serving Patton Township.
And just remember, we're only buying 40% of the planner's time in 2024. We dropped down from 50%. So the person they hire isn't going to be here Monday through Friday. The person they hire isn't even going to be here half the week, right? So they will be doing other things. It won't just be Patton Township. So that shouldn't affect, and that was one of the conversations that we had when Mr. May was still here, was if you fill a local planning position and then Harris, Half Moon, Patton leaves in '25, you can move that person over to regional, you can move that person over to transportation. There are other opportunities within the agency.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, there was a citizen who wanted to make a comment.
Sure. Come up to the mic if you would again.
Hi, good evening. I don't think I need to introduce myself again, but I am, like you've heard my position previously, I am concerned about the degradation of regional government. Now, I'm not an expert in finance, municipal financing, or contract law, but local planning just has so many pitfalls. And I know we're not going to revert to purely local planning. I understand that. But I am worried, okay, so you're pulling out money out of COG. What's stopping other people from saying, well, they're doing less and less. Why do we need regional planning? Because, listen, I'm stuck in suburbia, right? I'm stuck in Park Forest. I'm in places where it's very difficult to walk and bike to, grocery stores, actual places that I want to go to, and downtown. It's very difficult. There's a bunch of planning issues. There's a bunch of infrastructure and road problems. I don't know. I don't want to go down this direction where the townships are a bunch of fiefdoms, and they decide their local planning and, they fight over property taxes and planning. I don't want to see that. There's so much overhead, so many pitfalls. I want you guys to think about the long-term implications of this carefully, because this might just pass over headlines for all we know. I don't know. If you haven't noticed, not a lot of people are very engaged with local government nowadays, so I am worried, I am. But thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, anyone else? Well, now it's time to vote. And so it's all in favor of the motion.
Aye.
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 Well, we don't need to
You
do
should
the...
do the opposed anyway.
You should go ahead, finish.
All right, all opposed?
Nay.
Nay. Okay, it passes 3-2, and we're going to announce that we're pulling out if we don't have a plan. Okay. Then we're up to the next item,
The budget.
which is the budget. Oh, the budget.
Page 4, yeah.
Page 4. There
Chair.
it is.
Chair.
And, go ahead.
One quick comment, and this is just a psychologist coming out in me. We are a pleasure to work with. Trust me, I hope you got that message. But yeah, this is just a really, just been a thorn in our side. And again, I know,
Wait, what's the thorn in our side?
just the not having the service, our services not being rendered for planning. So.
I think the way we handled this issue really showcases that we're a pleasure to work with.
Yeah.
So I don't feel any animosity from anyone,
It's a lot of good discussion.
Yeah.
regardless of what my position is or anybody else's. So when I say bravo to us.
Right.
As I said, I think all of you are correct.
Can I?
Pam?
Betsy, I'm putting you on the spot, Betsy Dupree again. Can we bring this issue up again in a couple of months?
I would hope absolutely that you, after the planning director does, it sounds like he's had interviews, he's working, you're going to look at this issue. I think the board can certainly ask staff to make sure that this is, maybe at the end of the first quarter, you're looking at this issue and seeing where you are. Because I do think you're going to need, and they're going to need help too with what I see coming up your pipeline, so.
So in about 4 to 6 months, we can bring this back to the table and vote on it?
Yeah,
Okay,
absolutely.
good.
We don't even have to wait 4 to 6 months. We could say March or April.
What I can do is I can, in my manager's report, give you an update every month. So you know kind of where we stand. Mike and I can work together on that. I'm happy to do that.
And I would encourage the board to continue on the path of looking at the articles so that future boards, whether here or in other townships, are not in this, and staff really across the board are not in this situation where they've got an awkward plan that keeps them stuck in something and they can't work it out.
Thank you.
Right. Okay, then we're up to the budget.
Yes, so Larry's going to do a presentation, and I'm going to tell you right now that this is the B- and C+ team running the projector tonight. So if I screw something up, it is totally on me. So we're going to try to share
Okay.
the screen.
Are you going to do the presentation on the screen, or do you want me to share my screen?
Oh, if you could share your screen, you would make me.
Well, I can if you can give me the ability to share screen, because I tried and it says, oh, there we go.
Okay,
Good,
thank you, Larry.
Larry does whatever is fiscally possible.
Can everybody see that?
It's coming up.
Nope.
It's still loading.
What?
Oh, there we go. There we go.
No.
Okay. Can you see it?
Yes.
Yes.
All right, so tonight, Amy and I are going to present, I'm going to do a short presentation, and then it should be followed by a public hearing, and hopefully, if everything is okay, we'll have the final adoption of our budget, Patton Township's budget, the CIP, and COG's budget. Okay, so let's see if I can get this to work.
Thank you.
There we go. So on November 8th, we did the presentation, and on November 15th, we did the tentative adoption, and tonight we're going to do the public hearing and the final adoption. So as we talked about in our last two meetings is our tax rates for 2024, there is a 0.4 mil increase or 0.4 mil increase in the real estate taxes that are proposed. The last time we had an increase was a 0.2 mil increase in 2012. So it's been 12 years since we've had an increase. That makes our real estate taxes to be a 9.3 mils, and our open space preservation from our referendum back in 2014, 2015, somewhere around there, was 0.6 mils, so the total is 9.9 mils. Earned income tax remains at 0.5%. Local services tax remains at $52 a year. And real estate transfer tax remains at 0.5%. Again, those last three are the maximum rates permitted by the Commonwealth. This is the breakdown of our millage allocation. So our general millage will go from 6.2 to 6.6. Debt will remain at 1.2. Open space preservation remains at 6.6. Library remains at 0.4. Park capital improvements remain at 0.7. And fire remains at 0.4, which makes our total increase from 2023's total of 9.5 to 2024's 9.9. Our total revenues are broken down as such: 5.7 million for real estate taxes, 367,000 for a tax on the open space preservation, 2.8 million for earned income tax, 800,000 for other taxes, 4.8 from intergovernmental payments, which are grants and payments from other government agencies, and non-tax sources of 927,000 for a total revenue of $15.5 million. Our expenditures are broken down to general government is 1.5 million, police is 4.1 million, public works is 6.1 million, engineering, planning and zoning, and parks and rec of 900,000, other community services, 600,000, excuse me, COG of 2 million, just over 2 million, debt service of 789,000, and open space debt service of 245,000 for total expenditures of 16.4 million. Our personnel costs and benefits, the 2024 budget shows a 4.3% COLA for non-uniform employees. It was 6.3 last year, 4% in 2022, and 1.7 in 2021. Merit increases for non-uniform employees on their anniversary dates is 1.25%. The police contract shows is a 4-year contract, and there's a 5% increase in 2024. There's a 13% increase in health insurance cost, of which the employees contribute, non-uniform employees contribute 12%, and uniform employees contribute 9%. Just to show the increase in wages and benefits, it goes from 5.8 million to 6.2 million, about $400,000 increase, which equals to 0.685 mils. COG is going from 1.8 million to just over 2 million, or a $200,000 increase, which equals 0.33 mils. So those two items equal almost 1 full mil of additional costs. So the summary is, as I said, the revenues is 15.5 million, expenditures are 16.3 million, 16.4 million. There's a decrease in fund balance of 877,000. The year-end cash balance at the end of 2024 is projected to be 1.352 million, or 8.26% of operating expenses. I will take any questions, and if you don't have any questions, I believe the next step would be to have a public hearing on the budget. Thank you.
Are there any questions?
No.
Are we ready to open the public hearing then? Okay, the public hearing, and we're going to have the public hearing, then we're going to vote on this, and then we're going to take a 2-minute break. But public hearing is now open. Anyone who has a comment on the budget, let us know about it. I don't see a rush for the mic. Okay, is there a motion to close the public hearing?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. We're finished with that, and now we're ready to vote on the budget itself. So I'm ready to take a motion on this.
So I move that the board approve Resolution 2023-024, the adoption of the 2024 township budget.
A second.
It's been moved and seconded. Is there any commentary? Fears, consternation, worried? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously, and we've passed our budget.
Okay, all right.
Thank you all who contributed to getting this done. As usual, our finance director has been just doing yeoman work on this. I don't know if there is such a thing as a yeoman anymore, but great work. And so we're going to take a break for 2 minutes. Okay. Now we're up to public safety.
No.
No.
No, we're
No,
not.
resolution.
Bottom of page
Bottom
4.
of page.
Bottom of page 4, there's a resolution, right? Mm-hmm. Okay,
Yeah, this is for the capital improvement
right.
program.
I should have put this before the break, but I apologize.
Yeah, so this is the 2024-2028 capital improvement plan, which the board saw at your October 25th and your November 8th meetings, and we did make the necessary adjustments that the board asked for. So the plan is ready to be approved by the board this evening.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
It's been moved,
Second.
been seconded. Is there commentary or fears, consternation, worries? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Now we're up to
COG budget.
the
D.
COG budget.
the COG budget, right? Cheap item.
Yeah, so the COG budget was sent to you at the general forum meeting on November 27th for adoption.
Yes.
I'd like to make a motion that we approve Resolution 2023-26, approving the 2024 COG budget.
Been moved,
Second.
seconded. Any commentary? It's going to be a challenge for our person on finance this coming year to keep up the work that Dan has done of preventing these costs from getting out of control. But all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that passed unanimously. Now we're up to,
Resolution.
Setting the property tax rate.
property tax rates. Is there a motion?
I move we adopt Resolution 2023-027.
Okay,
Second.
it's been moved and seconded of adopting the new tax rates.
Mr. Chair, I'd just like to reiterate for the public that this board has held the line on a tax increase for 12 years. And that's an exemplary, I think, achievement on the part of the board to, administer taxpayer, for the benefit of our taxpayers, our expenditures, and yet providing full services that our citizens expect. So it's almost inevitable that we have to ask our citizens to absorb a tax increase. And this is the minimal amount of tax increase that we need, and our Director of Finance projects that this should hold us for a few years. We wouldn't need to ask for additional tax increases in the near future.
Okay? We have a motion?
Yep.
Yep.
And
We
we
already
had
moved
a,
to
we had a
second.
second. And is there any other commentary other than what we got from Dan? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Passes unanimously. And now we're up to public safety, aren't we? Which has
Yes.
no items. Is that right?
We have.
No, we
Chief.
do have a monthly report from the excellent chief. Go ahead.
Thank you very much. Yes, so you have the copy of the November Public Safety Report in with your materials. You'll see that our officers stopped 103 vehicles, wrote 11 citations, 2 parking tickets, and handled 44 criminal arrests. Under department notes, we discussed this at our last meeting because it had just occurred. But our agency did arrest 4 individuals for a variety of sex offenses related to solicitation of minors for prostitution. We worked with the FBI, the state police, and some other area municipal agencies. An update to that, though, is our state charges have been null-prossed or withdrawn, and they have all been indicted federally. So the federal government is taking over, the FBI is taking over the arrests, and their cases are now being prosecuted by the United States Attorney's Office for the Middle District of Pennsylvania. So we were happy to again, work and have that great detail and that great working relationship we have with our local, state, and federal partners here. A 63-year-old male was arrested for theft of mislaid property. The individual found a wallet laying on the ground inside one of our township stores, picked it up, put it in his pocket, and left. Unfortunately, he made no attempt to get it back to the owner or turn it into the business there, so he did face charges for that. 37-year-old female and 4 juveniles were arrested for retail theft-related incidents. Our investigation revealed that the adult was actually directing the juveniles to remove certain types of merchandise from area stores in the township. That adult was then selling that merchandise and then giving some of the proceeds to the juveniles that she was working with. 21 arrests, though, were made for retail theft, 11 for minors law, and 2 for driving under the influence. Our officers served 3 warrants of the 8 that they attempted, and we conducted 10 vacation home checks. Under use of force, we did use force during one incident in the month of November. Our officers were dispatched to a hold-up alarm at a township business, and upon arrival, employees directed our officers to a female who was seated outside. And they advised that she had been in the store and was creating an issue inside the store, and then she actually went outside and urinated on the sidewalk. Our officer spoke with her for approximately an hour. We were trying to get her a ride from the scene, trying to get her to accept mental health treatment or to come up with any other options. But ultimately, we determined that she was unable to care for herself. So our officers decided to take the female into custody and have her transported to the hospital for a mental health evaluation. EMS arrived and to provide that transportation for this individual, and she fled on foot. Our officers did catch up with her, and upon grabbing her arms, she passively resisted. But as they tried to place her into a car for transport, she then began to physically resist the officers. She kicked one of our officers in the groin and punched one officer in the cheek. She was eventually subdued and transported to the hospital by EMS. There were no injuries, though, reported by the officers or the female. However, she is facing charges for assaulting the officers. Under community relations, Officer Kaufman conducted a ride-along. Officer Tuskovich gave a station tour to Cub Scout Pack 32. He also spoke to our 7th grade health classes over at the Park Forest Middle School about alcohol. Officer Sunderland installed a child safety seat for a township resident. And then our officers participated in No Shave November, raising money for a new initiative, Blue Christmas. Talk a little bit more about this probably next month. We'll have some photos to share. However, the officers, in order to waive the grooming requirement that we have of staying clean shaven, they could donate money to this initiative. We work with the Salvation Army, the Angel Tree, to find out residents here in the township who might need a little bit of assistance at the holiday season here. So Officer Tuskovich and I have already gone out and purchased many of the gifts. We have a little bit of shopping left to do this week, but then we'll be distributing those gifts to the families here in the upcoming week. So more to follow on that, and I'll have some photos, like I said, in my report next month.
If people would like to contribute to that, what should they do?
Yeah, so we have accepted a few donations from the public. What we've been telling everybody is just to write a check to Patton Township Police. It goes into the officers, actually their association have a bank account, and they have a separate account set up just for this Christmas initiative. So they're welcome to reach out to myself or Officer Bradley Tuskovich, who's our community relations officer, and we'd be happy to direct them further if they need. So, yep. Huge shout out though to Walmart. They're always very supportive of this, and also to Patton Township. The township, Amy and last year Doug did contribute some funds to this as well. So really appreciate all the assistance with it. It's a fantastic program and had great success with it.
Quick question. What's the fundraising mechanism? What underlies it? Is that the officers themselves get to contribute?
That's kind of how it started,
Okay.
was them contributing again to waive that shaving requirement.
Okay.
However, we have had donations from some businesses in the past. Again, Walmart this year we also pair up with Ferguson Township Police Department, so we're both doing this together. But Walmart donated $500 to each agency this year.
That's great. Okay.
But yeah, mainly it's from the officers, and then their union matches whatever we
great.
do. So
Okay,
yeah,
thanks.
they've
I was
been a
wondering
big
how it was.
driving force for it. So yep. Under training department activities, our officers attended tactical response team training. Officer Kaufman attended training on the vehicle code, inspection regulations. Officer Slade attended training for a new criminal investigator. Detective Hawes, who's been with our agency for over 30 years, will be retiring here January 11th. So Officer Caitlin Slade was selected to fill his position. So she'll be getting promoted to detective and starting here after the new year. So really appreciate everything that Detective Hawes has done for our agency. He's been a fantastic officer for the entire his entire career. Greatly missed. He's a wealth of knowledge, so she has some big shoes to fill, but I think she's going to do a fantastic job. So. And then I attended the Public Safety Center Advisory Board meeting, a Humane Officer Planning meeting, an Active Attacker and Mass Casualty Tabletop at Penn State, and the Community and Campus Immunity meeting. We did have one performance report, and I'm not going to read the entire thing because this is related to the arrests from the detail we did with the federal government, but acknowledging Officer Elijah Vardzell based on his contributions to that. He did a really nice job of coordinating the effort on our end. So we have a photo of the officer you just met this evening, Michael Ottolini, being sworn in front of Judge Casey McLean, and that was on November 28th. And then lastly, I just have our record list of calls for service. For the month of November, we had 434 total calls. That's down from the 558 that we handled in October. 71 of those were school checks, and 52 were health and safety EMS assists. And that concludes my report.
Any questions?
Yes.
Two
Chief, are we doing anything for Detective Paz for the 30 years? Do we have a certificate or something from our township or
So-
this board?
So the township does provide a gift to him, and I know that Luana has been working on that. I recognize them by giving them a retired badge,
Okay.
generally. Most police officers don't really want any recognition, and Detective Hawes is one who was adamant that he didn't really receive anything. But so he is being recognized in ways that he's comfortable with in the next few weeks here. Yeah.
Well, it's always nice to acknowledge it's not only the officer but his family that has gone through exactly what, the officer has, the trials and tribulations and sacrifices. And it's nice to see a certificate of appreciation from, the community. So, Amy, if we can get a certificate from this board.
Yeah, my thought process was that we would include this in the reboot of the Township Appreciation Dinner, and we
Okay.
would recognize him there. since he-
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yes.
I had a couple
Bessie,
quick
right, you
questions.
had something.
So what exactly is a school check? Is that something that the school reaches out to the
No,
officers?
Just proactively,
You do
our
routine.
officers are always, again, in the morning during drop-off, afternoon when
Okay, just
students are
the-
being picked up, just their presence in the school.
that's what I
We're
thought.
actually physically walking in and checking
Okay.
on things at the school. Sure.
That's what I
Yeah.
thought. And I just had never asked that.
Yeah.
And the other thing that occurred to me was when a citizen dials 911, what happens? I get it that the police force now is acting as an extended ambulance. I mean, it is a tremendous gift to this community. But does a citizen call and say, I'm having a heart attack, I need the ambulance? Because I would just normally call 911, but what happens?
Yes, certainly. So, yeah, I mean, if you called 911 right now, it would go to the Emergency Communications Center in Bellefonte.
Yeah.
So that's where the 911 center is at. They would gather the information for whatever the issue might be, and then they figure out the appropriate jurisdiction to deal with it. So if you live in Patton Township, your address will pop up. It'll show it's Patton Township, and they immediately get on the radio with one of our officers who are out on patrol and dispatch them to that location and give them information. Computers in our cars pop up and show all the information that the dispatchers are putting into CAD as well. So So yeah, pretty much that would be the gist of it. If you're having an emergency, by all means, yeah, call 911 and they'll get the appropriate police responding.
And then at
right
what
away.
point does the ambulance come?
Yeah, so,
Just,
okay, specifically for an ambulance assist, by all means, they dispatch us typically right at the same time.
Okay.
So usually there's 3 stations at the 911 center. There's police, fire, EMS. So there's usually a dispatcher
Okay.
specifically just for EMS stuff. But so generally, simultaneously, we get dispatched. They want us rolling because we're out on the streets, and usually they're a little bit faster than the ambulance might show up. And again, we're fantastically equipped, so we're ready to go in with oxygen, our AEDs, anything that we can do to help until EMS gets there. So.
this actually comes from my experiences last year being up with my mother, my 99-year-old mother, I might add, and where she was, if something happened to citizens in her residence, they simply called they had a separate number for the ambulance. So it's very interesting to see how different communities set up different systems. So I really appreciate that
Absolutely.
that explanation.
Yep.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Betsy. Okay, now we're up to Public Works, and I just wanted to commend the Public Works Director for the excellent job done so far on keeping our streets free of snow and ice.
I think that probably falls more in your category.
I'm retired, so keep up the good work.
Touche, Ken. That's good.
Now we're up to Engineering, Planning, and Zoning.
So we have Ellen Foreman from the Planning Commission on Zoom. Ellen, if you want to unmute yourself.
Okay, oops, sorry. Look like I'm in the dark there. I have a little bit of a frog in my throat and just, so I'm going to be very brief anyway, because you'll be getting an update on the recommendations taken at the meeting from other folks that are there with you today. I will say that consistent with the resident who spoke earlier in the meeting, we did have a discussion about walkability and bikeability as more development is approved for top trees and of course other areas of Patton Township. So it is a hot button issue and appreciate his comments. I did want to mention that we were invited by the township to attend the PSATS training, and so 4 commission members attended, as did Betsy. It was great to see you there, Betsy. It was offered to us, free of charge to us, so we really do appreciate the township doing that training or offering the training for us, and it provided an overview of what a planning commission does and what our role is, how we fit into the township government overall. It went over the basic tools and the, like the saldo, which I didn't know what that was before I joined the Planning Commission, and also zoning, and they, a lot of the terms were defined for us, and we learned more about how we could effectively contribute to the quality of life in our community. So again, I just really want to give a shout out to you all for letting us do that training. I think it was very helpful, and I know Amy plans to do more ahead, so I'm excited about that. And then I'll just turn it over to whoever's speaking. I'm happy to stay on in case there's any additional questions.
Are there additional questions? Okay, well, thank you for the excellent report.
You're welcome.
We're now up to 160 Clearview Avenue.
Yeah, so if you remember, we received a request from the HFL Corporation to rezone 160 West Clearview Avenue from R2 low-density residential to R3 medium-density residential. Property is currently owned by HFL, and they intend to develop a 31-unit, 55-plus affordable housing complex on the property. The Planning Commission voted 5-2 to recommend that this move on. The supervisors passed it on to the Center Region Planning Commission, which is in accordance to the regulations in the Pennsylvania Municipal Planning Code. CRPC did not have a quorum for their November meeting, but they did empower their former director to provide a letter, and he provided a letter stating that it followed good conformance with the Center Region Comprehensive Plan, good planning practices, and noted that it was also consistent with the township's attainable housing goals. So the project is now, the rezoning is now ready to go for action. So what we're asking the board to do tonight is to set that public hearing. You'll pass an ordinance to do the rezoning. Set the public hearing for January 24th. This gives us time. The property has to be posted. I was incorrect. We don't have to mail letters out to the residents around there. It's just the property owner who gets the letter saying that we're going to do the rezoning. And then we have to advertise the public hearing.
Okay. So do we need a motion to do that?
Yes, please.
Okay, we need a motion to have the public hearing.
So moved, Mr. Chair.
It's been moved
Second.
and seconded. Any comments? All in favor?
Aye.
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 Did you have a comment?
I did actually, maybe a suggestion that
I'm sorry.
we might, even though we don't have to send out letters, that we,
We're going to do notifications through our social media
okay,
and on the website through
Okay.
Sophie, yep.
okay. And people who came out earlier are probably tuned into that
Yes,
to begin with.
yep.
And we're also putting are we putting a sign up saying?
There is a requirement that a sign has to be up. The sign is actually already at the property.
Okay, that's what I thought.
Yep.
Okay, great, thank you so much.
I'll just repeat again that I have never received a citizen complaint from anyone claiming that we gave them too much information. Okay, and all in favor of doing this?
We already voted. Aye. Yeah.
Right, okay, so we're going to move on. Okay, now we're up to the Toft Trees West, is that right? Toft Trees West, the gigantic area that's being subdivided.
Yes.
The Toft Trees West, there is a plan that subdivided a parcel, well, actually two parcels, and rearranged the sizes and so forth. One of the questions that did arise with this at the Planning Commission was regarding the deed to the one parcel, which I believe they have now corrected that deed. And Tony Fruchtel is here from Pentair Engineering. They can run through this with us and answer questions if you folks have them regarding this.
Yep, as Ken said, my name is Tony Fruchtel. I'm with Pentair Engineering. We're the civil engineer for the project and prepared the plans. So there's actually two components to this tonight. The first is a subdivision and replot plan. Subdivision and replot plan essentially takes the 16 acres of property which are on the west side of the future Masters Boulevard, and that was something that you've seen and was approved as part of the Mount Nittany Health project, and creates the 16-acre parcel for a subdivision. The reason we're doing it in two parts is because the replot and subdivision plan creating the 16 acres, which is approximately this area right here, allows the owners of the property to convey the rights to develop it to the developers of Toft Trees. And as part of that process, we did get a comment that the one parcel that will create this whole thing, which is right here, there was an inconsistency in the deed that was recorded versus the plan that had been done prior. That deed has now been created, it's recorded, so that's one issue that was taken care of. So essentially, the first plan that we're asking for approval, conditional approval for, is a subdivision and replot creating a 16-acre piece of ground right here. As I mentioned, this area right here, this is the Masters Boulevard piece that will be, right now it's being prepared and will be constructed in the spring of next year. And this area right here is where you can see the Mount Nittany Health Medical Center that's going in. So this is kind of the next stage of development for the whole big area here, as Ken mentioned. I can jump right in.
Well, and it's going to be up to the board's preference if you want to go through both items and then vote on both items together, or if you want to look and vote individually on the subdivision, then the land development plan, because the next item that Tony was referring to is the land development portion for this 16-acre tract that he's referring to.
What's everyone's pleasure on how to handle it? Do both?
I think doing them together, because it makes more sense It would make more sense to me to see what the development plan is for the new parcel.
Okay, so instead of considering them both together, we're going to do them at the same time.
That'll work.
Okay.
Go ahead.
All
So,
right,
yeah, can we jump to the plan?
there you go.
There you
Plan
go.
is up. Don't make me scroll, Tony.
All right, so in the interest of not making Amy do any work over there, we'll use this plan right here. So this is essentially the 16-acre parcel that I pointed out on the last plan. This is the Masters Boulevard that's going to be constructed, the roundabout. This is the Bellefonte Central Rail Trail that's in there right now, and what you can see in gray there is actually the area that has been conveyed to the township for an easement on the Bellefonte Central Rail Trail to preserve that area, so we know that's staying. The proposed development is 52 lots right here. It will be served by public roads. One comes off Future Master Boulevard. The second one would be an extension of this road here. This is known as Augusta Way, that part of the Toftrese Master Plan. Those 52 lots would be on roads that are to township standards. They would have curbing, sidewalks on both sides, street trees. The street trees actually have we did the same thing we did on the last couple of subdivisions where there's a variety of street trees, an option to the developers. And we're still kind of working with the landscapers on what those trees should be. The list kind of keeps narrowing between what's acceptable and what will survive or what's applicable for certain reasons. So we keep working on that. I know that's important to Betsy. The Masters Boulevard here will have water, sewer, and power, and access to all those will come in through this road right here, with the exception of sewer, which will actually go the whole way down to the end here and connect across to sewer that goes down the road here. Looking at the grading plan here, the top end of the development or the higher end, stormwater management gets handled in this basin right here. The lower end will go through a pipe that goes down here, and it actually crosses into basins that are existing right now on this side. When the overall development was done, these basins were designed to handle a certain amount of runoff from this kind of whole big area here, and part of this will contribute to that. The plan is to have a central mailbox kiosk right here. It has pull off with a couple spaces so folks can kind of get in. The post office is going to now that they don't deliver to individual houses anymore, so we got to put these kiosks in. The kind of jumping back a little bit, the density of the site is 2.6 units per acre. The allowable for this site is between 2 and 5, so we're kind of right in that middle area there. It's not. We didn't pack this thing in like it could be or like it's allowed to be. We do need an NPDS permit. We're working on that at this point right now. We don't have it in hand yet. That would be one of the conditions. And kind of something else is at the end of the public road here, we are showing a connection to the Bellefonte Central Rail Trail. So anybody that's coming up Masters Boulevard, there's actually a shared use path that will go in here that will connect down to the Bellefonte Central Rail Trail. One of the comments we got from the Planning Commission very specifically was, please make sure this is rail trail grit, not some kind of big stone or something like that. So that will be the specification. That will be same thing that's used right here. So I think that's all I have to present. Would certainly welcome questions, ask for the board's consideration of conditional approval for the subdivision.
And just one note, since the Planning Commission reviewed this, we did add one condition, which I told Tony about, which was to do, we've decided, talking with Betsy and staff, we're going to enter into developers agreements now for all of our master planned communities, because what we're finding is these master plans are being built over years, sometimes decades, so we want to make sure everything is memorialized in one document, and then as people come and go, we're not losing things and things aren't falling between the cracks. So that protects both the township and the developer. And Tony didn't indicate that that would be a problem.
Good idea.
That'd be fine. How long ago was the was it decided that the existing basins would handle was that a recent study or?
That was done maybe two years ago.
Okay. Reason I'm concerned is that with climate change, it seems we're getting more concentrated, heavy rains that don't last long, but which cause flooding, and so something that might have been okay 20 or 30 years ago might not be today.
Yeah, so the rainfall intensity rates are constantly being updated. So the amount of rainfall that they're using to create their hydrographs for those storms have been updated. And my understanding is that the BMP manual will be updated next year, and we'll take that a couple steps further. So it is being, that is being considered as part of the design of the basins, so.
Good. Any comments? That's it.
Look, just a bunch of little quick questions. So the 2.6 units per acre, that includes the open space in that plot, is that correct?
Well, that 2 point, yes, that includes
Okay.
this entire 16 acres.
Yeah, okay,
Yes.
great. So I had a couple of questions about the open space specifically, and if there were any designs to make it usable by the public. I don't know whether it's sloped. I assume it's fairly flat up there. Also, if there are going to be trees on it, or are the trees going to be removed? I'm thinking, again, of passive recreation.
Right.
And so that, yeah, got the density, got the trees, and then thinking of the living and playing in the area. Also looking at the sidewalks along Masters Boulevard and not seeing any trees there. I know that's an added expense, but I think it would make it a much more livable.
There will be street trees along Masters
Awesome.
Boulevard.
Okay, you
Yes.
just didn't have include it.
Yeah, they're not
Great.
shown on this plan, but yes,
Perfect.
they're coming.
And I did want to comment on the trees, just the specific ones that you've chosen. I don't have them up here right now, but I remember one was, we called it gumball tree. I forget I know that's Latin name. It's liquid ambar styraciflua. It's the podless or the seedless tree that I just can't think of the other common name for it.
Seedless honey locust?
I don't think it's seedless honey
I
locust.
don't remember which one it was.
I'm sorry.
To be honest with you.
You know what, you can answer those questions, or any other questions, and I'll go down and find what trees they are, because they look pretty good, but one of them really likes a wet foot, so I'll tell you which one that is.
So as far as the open space is concerned, the open space for Toft Trees West is considered as a whole. There are open areas in here. This will be open area, this will be open area. There will be grass and meadow areas. There'll be passive open space areas.
Gotcha.
There will, more than likely, there will be some sort of additional foliage planted in here just to kind of break up, there'll be a lot of traffic coming in here, and these will be some backyards in there, so there'll be probably some additional plantings in there to kind of cut down on create some headlight screening there.
Great. Okay.
But the overall Toft Trees development has a certain amount of required open space, and so as far as active areas, they will be taken care of in other parts of the Toft Trees
Gotcha.
development.
Okay, I figured that. And then one final question about the connectivity between the bike path that we see, so basically there's two bike paths, and there's a traffic circle in between. And traffic circles can be tricky to cross for both pedestrians and bicycles. So how are you handling that?
Well, there's areas of refuge when you're crossing the street. Like if you can see right here, it's called an area of refuge. Someplace you can stop. You don't have to cross both lanes when you're going around them. So that will carry the whole way around the traffic circle. So you can cross here, and then you can connect to what will be the connection to the Bellefonte, the rail trail right there.
Okay, and so right now, there's no dedicated multi-use path between the traffic circle and the start of the rail trail. Or this is the start of the multi-use path?
Correct. Yeah,
Okay.
that's correct. There's nothing there now.
So my experience as both an observer and as a bicycle rider is that you'll have people riding on that sidewalk with bikes. Just saying.
I appreciate that. I would have to take that back to the developer. We know there are certain requirements for where the shared use path has to go around kind of the whole, the central part. We'll bring that up and certainly present that.
I mean, my sense is, is that's not going to be an issue because I don't think there are going to be many pedestrians on that. But I would predict you'd have bikes on that.
Yep, I appreciate that. So, thank you.
Okay. Any other questions here? I share your concern there to make sure that people can get from one to the other safely. And from a historical standpoint, the Bellefonte the Rails Trail, the last train ran there in 1976 and came all the way into State College and served a number of businesses downtown, and then that railroad was abandoned. But it's good to see it being put to use again.
Yeah, and not subject to this plan, but one that Amy had mentioned it's coming. We're working with the township on other projects to kind of make the connectivity and finish some other pieces. So Ken's got a big smile and he's nodding, so we're working on some stuff that'll serve that as well. So.
One other thing, on the street lighting, is there any information about whether it'll respond somewhat to concern about the brightness of the lights?
So the street lighting in the development will be what is typical for street lighting in a subdivision like this, and it's served by an individual lamp post, if you will, at each lot. It's required to be, there's a maximum and minimum number of lumens it has to have, and it's supposed to be, I believe, hardwired so that it's on all the time. You can't, the homeowner does not have the option of turning it off, so it's on every night. And we found that actually it works better as far as lighting the sidewalks and being consistent, lighting along the street, and they're not too high, so as far as throwing light or light trespass, it's generally accepted. It's worked well in other developments. So.
The reason I ask that is because if you look at President's Drive, there are a lot of light posts, but some of the lights there are brighter than the brightest brights of any car that's coming up down the street. It just seems weird to see that.
So I would say that the responsibility for those lights is the homeowner's responsibility. So if they're putting something brighter or larger in there, I don't have a good answer for you on that, to be honest.
So we'd have to do something ordinance-wise if we wanted to change that.
Or the HOA just...
Talk with the HOA,
Yeah.
All right. I think we should at least look into that. All right. Any other? Oh, yes.
Has a comment.
Hi, good evening. Let me just reintroduce myself. My name is Fedor. I'm from Park Forest Village, as you know. I wanted to comment about this project today, and I wanted to advise the council to frankly oppose low-density suburban developments such as this one, okay? Now, it's interesting, there's a lot of debate about the Clearview rezoning one, which will create more density, and it's affordable and it will be beneficial for more people. However, this seems to me, frankly, like a handout to developers and a subsidy to property owners. Because let's be real, these 50 people in their little suburban lot, they will be driving. They will be using infrastructure. They will be going on roads. They will have to go to businesses, they'll have to drive all of that. That will put much greater strain on taxpayers and infrastructure than anything else I can think of. So we should really be sensible here, and I know maybe we don't have a lot of legal options here, but there should definitely be something more livable and dense here, you know? I don't want to see more expansion of urban sprawl. It's bad for the environment, it's bad for people. This is just going to create more traffic, like, not unlike the other development, you know? But thank you. I think I've said enough. I think I've communicated my point enough. Thank you.
Anyone want to comment?
I'll comment on the facts of this. This is a planned community. It's the entire Toftrees area was a planned community that was approved, what, 25 years ago, 20 years ago, something like that?
67.
1960s.
Oh, 1960.
60s,
So
yeah.
we're talking about 40, 50, 60 years. This was approved for 60 years ago, and in the master plan, there was that was approved by the board at that time. There was a certain number of single-family homes, there was a certain number of more dense, apartment units, there was a town center, it was approved with apartments. There was, in other words, it's the entire community plan was already approved. Our hands are tied in the sense we can't change that. So as long as the developers' proposals comply with what the master plan has already been approved in terms of the number of types of units and the amount of open space, there was a certain requirement of whatever it was, 30% or something had to be open space. Bottom line is our hands are tied. As long as the developers' proposals comply with what was previously approved in that master plan. So I'm not arguing against what your views are. Certainly, I think most of us agree we don't want to promote urban sprawl. But when you look at the entire community of viewpoints, as we learned when the Patton Crossing development on North Atherton Street was under review, and we heard from over 200 people. The range of views were, from 0 to 100, basically. There were some people who wanted it to be a park. Well, fine, if you buy the land from the developer and give us the land, we can make a park out of it, sure, no problem. But, we're talking about millions of dollars for that property. On the other end, we had community members who said, we need to build up, we need to grow up, more and more density, leaving more and more open space around dense development. And then you have people, it all ranges in between. So what do we have to do as a board? We have to listen to everybody's viewpoints. We have to consider all these things. And that's when Elliot suggested we do a citizens advisory group to meet with the developers and try to work things out. So that's what we can do, is work with developers to try to modify some of the aspects, but as long as they propose a development that complies with the master plan that's already been voted on and already been approved, we can't go back and say we're going to take some of that approval back. We don't have a legal basis to do that. If we try to do that, they can sue us and we're going to lose. So it's kind of a pointless exercise for us. I'm sorry, I didn't want to go through the entire aspect, but like you, when I first came on the board, I was not aware of all this. We had to kind of learn, educate ourselves in what has already been approved in the past, what are all the legal issues that are involved in trying to come up with whether we can approve or not approve. And in many of our decisions, when developers make a proposal, if they comply with a prior approved development plan, our hands are tied. We have to agree. We can still work with the developer on, modify this, modify that, let's improve connectivity for the public, selection of the trees you're going to plant, more native species. There are certain things that we have some control over. But a basic development plan that complies with the previously approved development plan, our hands are tied. So I'm sorry for taking so much time, but I think
No, that was a good
educating the public
Mhm.
about these issues is important. To give you understanding of why there are things we can do, but there are a lot of things we can't change. We can't do anything about it.
Having grown up within the city limits of Philadelphia and having grandparents who lived in row houses in South Philadelphia, all this is just majestic. It's spacious. You'd want to live there, but if you like that old neighborhood, you might have liked that too. And this is what's been approved so far. So
Can I get back to the trees? I found the tree.
Let's get back to the trees.
Okay. And I do just want to build on what Dan said. This was a great explanation. So we deal with local, state, and federal laws in planning. And that was the biggest learning lesson for me working with Patton Crossing, that there are just certain things that we, by law, can't do. So anyway, which protects, we want laws in place. We're a country of laws, but sometimes, yeah, whatever. So Tony, yeah, I just wanted to say that it's the sweet gum.
Sweet gum, right?
Yeah, it's fruitless sweet gum. Everybody know we call them the gumball trees. They have those. You don't want to go barefoot in gumball trees, but both the sweet gum and then I would guess the swamp white oak,
Right.
like a wet foot. I'm
Okay.
just guessing by the name swamp white oak. I don't know about American linden, but and I think who's the arborist in
Lance King.
Lance King in the
Lance,
borough?
yeah.
Because I think you've consulted, or he has
Yes. Yeah,
certainly
he's
weighed in
reviewed it,
before.
And he's okayed those. And we're kind of still working. We
Yeah.
worked with Scott Burke a little bit also.
Okay.
To just try and figure out, red maples were very popular, very attainable tree,
Yeah.
but the root systems were not compatible with sidewalks. Okay,
Right.
so they're out. And
Yeah.
we're just,
It's tough.
the number of trees is shrinking, and we're just trying to
Yeah.
make sure that we have plenty that can be used.
Yeah, that's
They're
great. And it's actually great that you're alternating.
Yes.
So you have to have some diversity in that.
Yes.
So.
We might add that there is a push to have a regional species list for street trees. Ken's
Yeah.
been going to those meetings.
Mhm.
So we're all going to try to have a similar list for our trees so that people like Tony who work
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
multiple municipalities doesn't have to
Mhm.
rip his hair out every time he moves.
Yeah,
to a
we'd
new
be happy to be involved
municipality.
with that, Ken, actually. At first I heard that, so.
No, the goal is to actually have a list to present to our planning commissions early 2024.
That's great.
And then forward it to the supervisors for approval so that
Yeah.
it will make your life a lot simpler.
Yes. And
it will
yours, yeah.
Actually make our life a lot simpler
Yeah.
too, when we're reviewing plans.
Yeah, and then you, or somebody can forward that list or make it available to your suppliers, because as you
Yes.
know, that's a cog in the whole.
Yeah, and hopefully that would be sort of part of the consideration. It doesn't do any good to have a list of trees that you can't get or are super expensive.
And just FYI, barberry is going to be banned as of next year, I believe. Am I right on that, Ken? Have you heard that?
I
It's a-
think they're going to consider it to be, along with some of the other invasive species.
Yeah.
So in summary then, people are pining for better organization, and they're sick of more confusion.
Oh, Elliot, we are going to pine for your puns.
Can we make a motion?
So we need to approve these each separately since they're two separate plans.
Okay. Can we approve the first one?
Is there a motion?
Yes. Is it C?
Yeah, you want to do the Toft Trees West Plan Community Subdivision and replot?
Okay, so yeah, move to approve the Toft Trees West Plant Community Subdivision and replot plan for tax parcels 18-004-001A and 18-022-003.
It's been moved.
Do you want to add
Add the
with the
condition.
conditions that are listed in the?
With the conditions that, one, completion of all items noted on staff's marked up comment letter, and two, provide an updated deed to correct the acreage.
Hold on.
I'll second.
It's been moved and seconded. Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's done unanimously.
Thank you.
I'll continue on. Making a motion to, is this E, C, E?
D.
D, yeah.
D. Motion to approve the, I'm sorry, I don't know where to read.
Toft Trees West Plan Community Phase R6.
Okay, to move to approve the Toft Trees West Plan Community Phase 6, R6, single-family development preliminary final division subplan.
With conditions.
With the conditions. Do I have to read them all out?
No, you can say with the conditions noted.
With the conditions noted.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there comments? Fears, worries, consternation? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's done.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And can I say, Dan, good luck, whatever's next. We appreciate
you,
working
Tony.
with you. I'll take that opportunity because we've been back and forth on a lot. You mentioned Patton Crossing. We got a lot of stuff done, so thank you very much.
Thank you. So we're up to,
Admin.
Proposed ordinance.
The open space ordinance.
the open space ordinance.
Yeah, so we wanted to make a couple of changes to the open space and recreation areas ordinance. This was reviewed through the Open Space Committee back in October. The changes are as follows. They changed the name of the Haw Tract to the Haw Family Preserve. It's currently referenced as the Haw Family Farm Open Space in the ordinance. Adds our newest open space property, which is the Marjorie D. Seward property, which is up on Skytop Mountain, to the program, and establishes permitted and prohibited uses on the property. The property is 36 acres, and we were gifted that in 2019. Adds hours of operation for the Haw Tract. The ordinance allows for 24-hour usage with the exception of camping, and this is consistent with the usage regulations for grazed woods. And then it also addresses an issue that we're having with tree stands. People are putting up the tree stands and they're leaving them there for a very long time, and the trees are now wrapping around the tree stands. So we want to put in regulations that are consistent with the Game Commission's regulations and gives you a duration to have your tree stands in trees. So if you are okay with the ordinance, we would just need a motion so we can set a public hearing for January 24th, 2024 on it.
Is there such a motion?
I would- Oh,
Been moved.
gotcha. And second.
It's been seconded. Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Okay, that's done.
Okay.
That was tough. So now we're up to administration, is that right?
Yes.
Administration.
So we have your list of tentative meeting dates for 2024. We put them on here so you guys could take a look at them before we actually approve them January 2nd. I will note that the June 19th meeting we need to move because that's the Juneteenth holiday and we are closed that day. And also, we'd like you to consider moving your July meeting date off of the 17th because a couple of our department heads will be on vacation. So if you're okay with moving the June 19th date, we would suggest either the second Wednesday, which is June 12th, or the fourth Wednesday, which is June 26th. And if we could do something similar with July, move it either to the second or the fourth, that would
I'll
be
be
great.
away from the 14th to 18th. It's the 28th of July. But if nobody else is, that doesn't matter then.
Wait, you're talking about July?
July, I'm going to be away
Okay.
14th to 28th.
So we could do the week before.
Okay.
Yeah, we could do July 10th if you wanted, instead of the 17th.
Okay.
And
You
I
okay with that?
think so.
Might be warmer then, too. Than now. All right,
Okay.
so any
That's,
other
okay, yeah, that's
suggestions?
our,
And then for June, do you want to do June 12th instead of June 19th?
I would have a preference for June 12th because, just because some other things that are going on in my life than that following week.
So June 12th is not good? Or
No, I would prefer June 12th.
I would, too.
Okay.
Everyone else okay with that? Okay, you'll approve these at your meeting on
Gotcha.
January 2nd.
That sounds
Just
okay.
a few weeks away.
Yes, and then we'll get them advertised.
Okay, great. Cool.
Okay.
Okay. So
Great.
next up, we wanted to talk about making some changes to our meeting room usage policies. Right now, we're getting some pretty heavy usage of the meeting room by the public for various meetings and events. We're also using the library upstairs. And we've noticed there's some significant wear and tear to the carpet in particular in this room, and also we're going to start replacing the chairs because they're getting some heavy usage. So I had Casey, who handles all the meeting room reservations, reach out and speak with the other municipalities. And what we found is State College no longer lets the public use their room. College and Ferguson are allowing it, but there is a fee associated with the usage of their room. And the COG is no longer allowing outside usage of their room. So we'd like to kind of use 2024 to gauge how these changes would go while still allowing the public some usage of these rooms because obviously they're paid for by taxpayer dollars. But first, we'd like to not allow the library to be used to be rented out anymore. And that's problematic because when the library's rented out, you have access to the entire first floor of the township. So if you're in there on the weekend, you actually can wander all through the first floor of our office upstairs. And I've had employees say to me, I've been working here on the weekends and random people just wander in my office and start talking to me and I don't know who they are. So we'd like to not allow that anymore. Any groups that are using the library now can be moved down here and they can use this room. We'd also like to disallow the use of recurring meetings for non-municipal uses. We're finding people that want to use our room for every, third Thursday of every month for the entire year. And that takes away usage from other groups. So we'd like to take that away starting in '24. And we'd also like to implement a fee policy. So under this policy, we'd allow every group to use the room for free one time. And then every time after that, there would be a $30 fee that we'll use to cover the cost of cleaning the room. And that should hopefully help deter the heavy usage of the room if you have to pay. In talking with Casey, we'd like to start these new policies in April because we do have some groups that are carrying over from year to year. We do have one or two groups that have been having recurring meetings, so we'd like to grandfather them for '24 so they're not without a meeting space for the year, but then change their fee so that instead of charging them the full $30 every time, we'd prorate it and charge them $100 for the year for the cleaning fee. So we wanted to gauge if you're okay with this, and if you are, if you could make a motion, and then we can get everything changed in our regulations and communicated back to the public.
I like the idea, although I think, aren't there some OLLI courses being held?
I don't believe there are.
A couple of years ago, a photography class was being held here regularly.
Right, and those events are still fine, everyone can still use the room. It's just after you use it one time, you would have to, for a non-municipal use, you would have to pay.
Can you list some of the groups? I just want to have a sense of the nature of the groups.
We have the Poetry Guild, we have Al-Anon, there's I think the Baby Weaners.
Baby
Wearers.
What was that last one?
Baby Wearers.
Baby wears?
Baby wears. The Knitters Guild, PennDOT.
Well, PennDOT would fall under the municipal uses. We had a community theater organization that was also using this room for a time.
The Cub Scouts.
The Cub Scouts were using it. We've had soccer groups, football groups.
And are those on regular basis?
Some of them are, most of them are, not all of them are recurring. The Knitters are recurring. I think the poetry folks are recurring.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the Cub
What
Scouts
is
are still here, though.
Just wonder what the baby.
I don't hear any objections to.
Amy, I have a question. groups that have been coming on a regular basis, are they problematic? Or can we grandfather in those like the poetry group, the knitting group?
So they're only, some of them have been problematic. Some of them have had, I've come down to set up for your board meeting, and we've found pieces of cake all over the floor, and they've had food and things in here, and they don't clean up after themselves. We also had someone break the key in the door, which is why we now have a totally different key system, a fob system down here for folks to get in. So some of them have been, some of them are, not all of them are problematic, certainly. And I don't mind folks using it for a one-off meeting or 1 or 2 meetings, but it's the every month, and we have people that are abusing they want to have these recurring meetings, sometimes twice a month, and because we don't have a policy right now, we can't tell them that they can't do that. So we want to, I think this will help us open it up for other groups too, that maybe just need to have a one-off meeting, and in the past didn't have the option because there was somebody in here on the 3rd Monday of every month. And the ones, and I will say the ones, and there's only a couple, there's a handful that have been consistently using it year after year. I'd like to let them go for a year so they're not without a meeting space in 24. I don't think that's a nice thing to do to somebody.
I think it's reasonable also to let the leaders of the groups have regulations that they are responsible for cleaning up and things like that, and make that formalized.
Yeah, they are told that, and we have, in the past, Casey will follow up with them, especially with the people that if they don't return the key or they broke the key or other things, she will follow up with them and talk to them about usage of the room and making sure they're cleaning up after themselves and following our regulations.
So can I make a motion? And we can discuss more. We can discuss more if needed.
No, you can make a motion.
Yeah.
I just have a comment, but it doesn't matter when.
Yeah, so can I make a motion to approve the changes to the meeting room policies?
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Commentary. Do you want to add your comment now?
Yeah,
All right.
so I worry about these groups, like the theater group. I don't know if they meet on a monthly basis.
Theater group has moved out to the Nittany Mall.
Okay,
They have a space out there.
okay.
And there is a community room actually at the Nittany Mall
Okay,
that groups can use.
do they rent that, the community?
I believe it is free.
Oh, okay. I like the idea of having providing citizens with free space. So I'm reluctant to let that go. I've been with a group that's used it at most twice a year. I think the library might have some rooms, but I think you also are asked to make a donation, so maybe that's the way to go. That's obviously, parking is an issue down there. So I guess I'm okay with it on a trial basis, but yeah, I just hate to see that go. It is something taxpayers support.
Do we want to sunset it? Do we want to?
We can, like I said, we won't roll this out until April because we want to give folks time, but we can also gather then feedback from the groups and see how the usage changes over the year, and then we can discuss it again at the end of next year to see if we want to make changes.
So would the motion then be to approve it and then allow
We'll give you
time to
a status report
reevaluate?
next year. I mean, the other thought is, I will say that I'm not sure, because we don't ask the people now if they're Patton Township residents that are using the room. I know College Township, you have to be a College Township resident to use the College Township meeting room. So that's also a thought, consideration, maybe not for '24, but maybe in '25, and have a different policy for a Patton Township resident, because Patton Township residents obviously pay for this building.
I know the group I work with is part Patton, part Hefman. But also, I was going to say, one second, something like a security deposit could also be requested as far as the cleaning goes, because some things you're not going to change.
Right.
But okay.
Amy, I just have a question on when people come and ask to rent out our space, do we have any kind of agreement?
We do.
Like a document? In that document, if anything is destroyed or
Yes, we
is
had
that in that
yes, yep,
agreement?
that is in there, yep.
Then whoever broke the key,
Yep.
we should be going after.
Yeah, that is all in that agreement, yep. And we've actually had to ban groups that have damaged the room.
Then that's what we do.
Yeah. No, I think it's good to address the situation, but, yeah,
Yeah, the problem is we don't have a lot of community use space in the region, and so there are
Yeah.
people that they
Yeah.
want to have meetings, and then they're flocking to all the rooms that they can get for free, and I understand that.
and I know
Yeah.
one group I was working with, the State High campaign, we met at Wegmans.
Mm-hmm.
And that, yeah, doesn't always work for everything.
I'm in agreement as long as we have something in place, like we keep talking about safety nets, but this is a prime example of using a facility, and we have an agreement, a written document that states, if anything, after your event, please clean up. And have a checklist, and after whoever comes in on Monday, that checklist is checked out.
Yep.
If it is not, then we need to have like the safety deposit or some kind of agreement of cleaning, a
Yep.
cleaning fee
Yep.
set up. But I agree with Betsy, I like having a free space for individual groups. But I also like to have a backup for us. So as long as we have a signed agreement that when we came in and the room was not the same as you rented it out, we have the option to ban you.
Yep.
We have the option to fine you,
Or hold your deposit.
hold your deposit.
That's the way to do it.
Yep.
Yeah, okay.
And also think of Casey's time. There might be groups who would want to use it every month and would then be calling and re-upping, as opposed to doing it once in January and reserving on that, so, okay.
So this will be in the ordinance.
It's not an ordinance,
That's-
it's a document that we
Yeah.
have,
Okay,
an
so-
agreement.
So
Yep,
what
policy.
we're voting to, the
Okay.
vote here would be to approve your idea.
Yeah, approve the changes, yep.
All right.
Okay.
You ready to vote?
Yeah.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Aye. There is a clause in there that we'll revisit this, right?
Yes.
Okay, perfect. Aye. Thank you.
Okay, so we're unanimous or?
Yes.
Okay,
Oh,
good, all
you
right.
voted in favor of it, sorry.
No,
I did
it's
vote in
fine.
favor of it, yeah. I just want to make
Okay.
sure that, I couldn't remember about the clause. Thanks, Amy.
Which then brings us to
Consent.
agenda.
the consent agenda. Anyone want to take something out of the consent agenda? Does anyone want to move that we approve the consent agenda?
I'll move that we approve the consent agenda.
It's been moved
Second.
and seconded. Comments? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? That's done.
Manager.
Managers, oh, the exciting part of the whole
What
meeting.
you've all been waiting for all night.
Manager's report.
Yes. So I'll just go over a couple of things. You have my full written report. The Single-Use Plastics Working Group met in December when we met with some stakeholders from Downtown State College, the Center County Recycling and Refuse Authority, and others to talk about how we would move forward with implementing this. We've been looking at what other communities, in particular Westchester Borough, did. They actually created a whole education campaign and a business program along with it. There's a lot of things we need to continue to work on, which is defining what we mean by single-use plastic, if we just mean straws, if we mean bags, looking at an implementation time frame that works for, in particular, small businesses that are ordering their bags so many months out so that they're not on the hook. And then the other discussion was, if we collect a fee, what are we going to do with the fee that's collected and how will that be used? So it's been a great conversation so far. I think there's a lot more for us to continue to dig into. The folks from Center County Recycling and Refuse Authority had some other folks that they want us to talk to, maybe from Pittsburgh and some other areas that had presented at a statewide conference on this. So more to come, but that's still, work is still continuing on that. And then just one other item from the administration side. As I mentioned before, we're still working on discussing the Penn State payment in lieu of taxes agreement, the pilot agreement that was originally negotiated and approved 20 years ago and expires at the end of next year. The last meeting, we were talking about needing a metric to determine impact, right? Because Patton Township doesn't have any Penn State property that we're getting payment in lieu of taxes for. We're getting solely impact money. So there's no one left from 20 years ago in the region anymore who remembers any of this. So I contacted Tom Kurtz, our former Patton Township manager, who remembered some of what the discussion was about, and which was really helpful. So we're actually meeting again tomorrow to continue discussing how that metric will be to measure if it's, number of students that you have in your municipality, if it's number of calls for service that we get for our police department, that kind of thing, how we actually look at that metric and what we do with that in the new agreement. And then in the new year, we're gonna start working on reaching out to the folks at Penn State, because we think there's nobody left on the Penn State side from 20 years ago. So it's gonna be a bit of an education process to get them understanding what this pilot agreement is and why it's so important to all of us. And just a reminder, College Township's not in this, because College Township has a separate agreement because they have the stadiums in their municipality. So more on that to come, and that's something that we need to get done by the end of the year, and the board will have to then approve as well. And then just one other thing on spongy moth. After our discussion 2 meetings ago, we actually Ken and I put together a letter and a survey for property owners in the proposed spray area. And if you remember, one of our discussion items at that meeting was we have some really large properties in that area. So we're defining a large property as more than 5 acres in size. And what do we want to do in terms of, is the township going to pay to spray all of these properties, or do we want to cost share? So that's one of the questions on the survey. And we are asking people their comfort level with cost sharing, and then cost sharing on a 5-acre basis or a 10-acre basis. So our intent is to have that back and ready for you to discuss at your January 24th meeting, so that we can continue to move forward. Ken's had a lot of conversations with a couple of the property owners out there. They seem to be very on board with the cost sharing idea, and they understand that not all of their property is going to be sprayed. So.
Yeah, I think there is an individual that was looking into doing it privately, and has contacted a lot of folks on the northern edge of the township, and a lot of those folks on the northern edge are waiting because they want to see what the municipality has, because they feel maybe we might be able to get a better contract because of, us having a larger group potentially. And it's going to be dependent too, though, because there's approximately 3 different chemicals that could potentially be used. The township last year, we used the a complete organic chemical of BT, and I'm assuming that's probably what we're still going to stay with this year. So that could vary the cost as well.
And we did provide information on the chemical that we used last year, and also told folks they can certainly opt out. They don't have to be sprayed if they don't want to. So hopefully that will help. And then one last thing, this is pretty exciting. The Recreation Advisory Committee was approached by a gentleman who's involved in the BMX community, and he would like to fundraise to pave our pump track out at Burnell Road. And it's a significant amount of money to pave the pump track. I know Betsy had been contacted by Susan Wheeler to talk about that. We had talked, I went to their last meeting in November and had discussed the idea of working with the Center County Community Foundation or another nonprofit to actually hold the money so that it doesn't get run through the township. And then we can, similar to what they do at Tom Tudyk Park, we could then have a pool of funds to take care of that. So I know that Susan and the RAC met on the 12th, which was yesterday, and that she's hopefully going to prepare a recommendation for the board to consider further at your January 24th meeting. So it's very exciting, though. It's a very generous offer.
Yeah.
And yeah. So with that, I'll answer any questions you have.
The Center Foundation does a great job setting those things up.
Yeah, they really do.
Okay, anything else?
That's it.
Okay, in the interest of time with the individual committee reports, if anyone has anything to add that is not obvious to us so far, go ahead, and otherwise we will.
The only thing I'll say is the Human Resources Committee was canceled due to a lack of quorum, because somebody forgot about the meeting.
And to the Public Safety Committee, because we didn't have any items, but I would like to also thank them for an extraordinary year of being productive at the Public Safety Committee. Thank you.
Anything else? Is there any other business?
Yes.
Okay.
First of all, I would like to acknowledge that this board continues to wish our sinkhole individuals. In 13 days, it would be the anniversary of the Patton Township sinkhole. And as you know, due to this board's and the staff working with the residents, they are now back in their homes. We would like to continue to wish them the best moving forward. Secondly, I would like that this board acknowledges we're losing 2 of our CNET crew. Tonight is their last night, and we would like to thank you for sticking with us. And, you know, we wish you the best in your endeavors as you move on. And third is welcome Susan.
I'd be remiss if I didn't point out that Pam's work in spearheading that work on getting the sinkhole stuff actually moving and taking action. That was just amazing what you did last year, or earlier this year.
Thank you.
Anything else?
Susan.
Is there,
No, I just wanted to wish people happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Kwanzaa, Hanukkah, all the other holidays. And so, yeah, I'm just hoping that people, if you're able to, you know, be around people who love you, try to reconnect during this time. 2023 has been a heck of a time for sure. But hopefully 2024 can be a little bit better for people, and that we can all come together and start just being nice, decent human beings again. Yeah.
A place for all.
Place for all.
is there a move to adjourn then?
So moved.
Second?
Don't need it.
All in favor?
Aye.
We're done.